guys, welcome to Simproved, Fry speaking here, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. Today we are going to build a monastery for The Sims 4. My intros are getting better every week. But yeah, it has been a while since I uploaded a speed build, and this is because this is a very huge build. This is on the 64x64 lot, meaning this is also on the biggest lot that we have in the game so far. And also this is base game only, and the very experienced Sims 4 player will say, but Fry, we don't have a 64x64 lot in base game. And you are totally right. And this is something that I kinda figured out when the build was halfway done, and I was like, yeah, well, so basically it's base game only. You can place it if you only have the base game. And if you place it and you don't have the 64x64 lot in your game through other packs, which would be, I think, Get Together or Brindleton Bay, that would be Cats and Dogs pack, or the Jungle Adventure pack. Those packs came with worlds that had the 64x64 lot. If you don't, you can still place this lot in your Willow Creek or your Aces Springs or your New Crest or whatever comes with the base game nowadays. I'm confused. I'm majorly confused. But you can place it, and then maybe some gardens around it, since it's a very centered kind of build, will be deleted. Like, you can still change what will be cut off and everything. So, but you can place it. So please be aware, this is a base game only build. It took me about, I would say, 12 hours, 13 hours, something around this. And also I streamed the furnishing of this. So you won't see me furnishing this because I figured out, like, through my watch time and everything, that people usually fade out viewing the build when I do the furnishing. This is where I use you a lot. So I thought, well, I personally also am not a huge fan of furnishing builds because it takes lots and lots of time, more time to even build stuff for me. So I'm going to furnish stuff for videos and for now on twitch.tv/Simproved. You can go and follow me there for free, of course, and see when I'm online and do a furnishing live, and I can chat with you if you are up for something like this. But yeah, so you will always see the build process. And since furnishing is kind of something, well, it kind of is a little bit self-explanatory, I thought, hey, you will see the long build process. It's still a very long video, as you can see, so there will be a video tour at the end, like in every video that I do, so you can see what's happening here in the build. You will also see it completely furnished and how it looks like in game. I myself have placed this on the 64x64 lot in Windenburg, not the one on the island, the one on the top hill, I would say, on the left upper right corner of the Windenburg world. So yeah, let me talk a little bit more about the build now. So it's a monastery, and I came up with that lovely idea because I built the Seasons Vineyard, I think a month ago, or even longer, I'm so sorry. But since these huge builds kind of take me a lot of time, and then I tried to build a new family house, because lots of you guys, of course, play with families and need like normal houses. And I was kind of talking about that. It's a little bit boring to do something like this for me. I mean, I can do them, this is not a problem, but they are kind of a little bit more, yeah, let's just say boring, even though you really need them maybe in game. But then lots of you had so lovely comments under that video about the family house. I think it was called the Tiny Mansion or something. That you actually enjoy my videos that are a little bit more, let's just call them weird kind of builds, maybe something that you won't really need in your game. But I highly suggest you to download this and put this in your game because it's beautiful. And I want all your Sims to visit this monastery because there's so many hidden gems in there, even furnishing and stuff, like little catacombs and nooks and I don't know, like rituals chambers later and stuff like this to experience. And also I thought while building this, it would also be a really cool wedding venue because we don't have churches or in general a religion in the game. I thought maybe a church, though, would be something that would be kind of realistic, of course, because lots of people do their weddings in churches and chapels and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so since I am, of course, a big fan of the lionfish in the game, I created the lionfish cult or the lionfish religion in this game. I know that longtime viewers already know this. It has been a theme for over 3 years now since the lionfish came into, I don't know, like, he is in all of my builds, and he's of course also here in the chapel as a placeholder for a cross or something, since this is of course very inspired by real monasteries in Spain, or even maybe in like South America, because they have, of course, since they were colonized by the Spanish architecture. And I read a lot of literature about how monasteries are built, like the architectural kind of, not the style, but it's really interesting for me. I know this is maybe the boring part, but just keep listening. So usually monasteries tend to be just a chapel or a church. This was like the first build ever of the monastery. And throughout the years, maybe some churches, of course, needed some housing for the priests and maybe some nuns or monks that would also do the mass there or work there. So stuff got added over the years. And then also over the years and decades and centuries, monasteries also have been a very important part of, you know, seeking refuge, for example, in the medieval times, Middle Ages, I think, whatever. And have been also a very, I would say, like economical kind of thing for the church, for the Catholic Church back then. For example, here in Germany, very known to brew beer, and maybe in Spain or in South America, Portugal, or, you know, that kind of countries, maybe, of course, France, they would culture wine or like grow grapes and like create wine and do something economical like this and sell it, and have like basically the nuns and the monks living there being employed, kind of having like an employment. I don't know what to call it, because I'm not baptized, by the way, so sometimes I'm a little bit, I don't know, weird with the expressions that you use for certain types of things, especially when it comes to Christian kind of, words that you use. But basically this is what I wanted to do here as well. So I needed lots of gardens. I needed, of course, this chapel that you can already see on one of the corners here. And then throughout the years, all the stuff got added. And this is also why this monastery has this very interesting kind of architecture with lots of different wall heights and little towers and little nooks added over the years. And this is something that I really, really liked, and I think it looks really interesting that way. And then I also thought maybe for gameplay, if you really want to do this, there are of course some dormitories and stuff, so I have furnished this as if this would be like a real monastery, of course, but you can totally maybe revamp it and turn it into a palace kind of thing, like a real life villa for like a very rich family. And this comes to my second inspiration that I had for this, because some of you may know my parents live in Spain, and of course I visit them regularly, at least 2 times a year, for winter, for Christmas celebration, of course, and sometimes in summer. And they have, of course, lots of friends living in Spain as well. And some of their friends, well, there's a couple. I would say they are rich. I'm pretty sure they are rich. And they really live in a monastery. Like, they bought a whole monastery in Spain and kind of renovated it into a huge kind of villa with lots of gardens and stuff, and it's like amazing. I haven't been there, but my parents have of course been there, because it's like far out somewhere in the country, and like you don't visit that much, of course, or you don't get visitors that much. So yeah, they showed me pictures and everything. I thought that would be so cool also, maybe to revamp this and put this as a house or something. I thought that would be really nice. So you can use it for so many kind of different purposes in your game, but I myself wanted it to be like a monastery with a graveyard, so you can also maybe bury your dead Sims there. Also, maybe play with a cult. Of course, I created the lionfish cult with lots of Grim Reaper Sims that I found in the gallery, and it was super funny. They were looking after a demon baby that was like basically just an alien baby, and it was just really, really funny. The social worker didn't even come, even though it was like a really weird kind of sight to see. But yeah, this is basically the main inspiration for it, and I was really happy that I could only use base game objects here. So everything is base game. I was like super happy about it, that everything worked out. Sometimes during furnishing I was like, oh man, it would be so nice to have like the gardening statues from, I don't know, like the romantic garden stuff pack, for example. Also, the vampire stuff pack came with lots of these nice gothic and old looking wall textures and wall hanging kind of decor that would have also suited the whole theme, but I couldn't use them anyway. So it was kind of tricky at first. I was like tempted to use lots of other packs, but I'm so happy how it turned out in the end, and that it really looks very elaborate and of course very cluttered again. So since I'm the crazy clutter lady of YouTube, I'm sorry for this, but it took me quite a while to place every little column and every little wall hanging decor, and it was just, yeah, but it's like, this is the part that is mostly like fun part of building. So I really like doing this. And yeah, here you can already see me doing the landscaping. So I did the yards first. It was really tricky to get them symmetrical sometimes, because sometimes I made the entrances to the yard a little bit bigger or smaller, or a little bit off to the side. And since those are very symmetrical, because you need to have this square shaped kind of path around that all monasteries seem to have, or they are cross-shaped, that you can also see here. I thought, yeah, why not try to play a little bit with different wall heights and different hedge heights? Hedge heights? Yeah, I think that's what you would call it. Hedge heights, fence heights, and also I had a little bit of foundation. So I had really lots and lots of different kinds of heights that I could implement here to make it look a little bit more interesting. That made the build a little bit more tricky, because I needed, of course, little stairs to go up to the foundation, since we all know that Sims are a little bit dumb and can't get on the lowest foundation maybe, but like if this foundation is a little bit higher, Sims are, yeah, they have some walking problems, I would call it. But yeah, it was really fun to do, especially the gardening part, because I was already imagining it in my head and it looked so cool. And I was really happy that it turned out how I wanted it to be. So the yards are a little bit different. One is just for flowers, one has this herb garden, as you can see here. We don't have so many herbs in the game, so I only could use the lavender kind of looking bushes that we have here. And it also reminded me that some monasteries, of course, are not just producing wine or brewing beer or producing anything. Some of them, of course, were, I would say, like a hospital kind of thing, where, yeah, the sick were looked after and all that kind of stuff. And of course they produced their own medicine and drugs for their patients, so they needed some herbs and all that kind of stuff, like healing flowers. I don't know how to explain it, but this is basically what also was like one of the main ideas for one of the yards. So if you want, of course, to play with this, you can also delete some of the herbs and stuff and like put in your own crops that you find, and really try to go in for a full-on I want to have a farm kind of thing, but with nuns. It would be really interesting, or with monks, of course. But yeah, if you want to play with this, I will put the download link in the video description down below for you guys, of course, as always. So you can have it in your game for free, no problem. This is why I build this kind of stuff, because you rarely like play The Sims, you know that, guys. I only build, so I'm always happy to share my builds with you, because then I at least know that people use it in their game. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoy this kind of more quirky kind of build, but in a sense of like architecture, it was so interesting for me to build, and also like fiddling around with the symmetry of the gardens and everything. It was like really interesting, and I totally loved building this, even though it took me, I don't know, like lots and lots of time to build, and also of course to furnish this very properly and highly decorated and more realistic looking. Some of the gardens also have different kinds of plants, of course. As I already talked about, we have the herb garden and everything. And I thought maybe one could be for the trees, like we have this, do we have orange trees? But yeah, you could build like a tree kind of garden, and then next to the other side there could be like just for flowers, for the low growing kind of bushes that you have in the game. So you can really kind of sectioning them off in the way if you want to do the gameplay with different plants and crops and like the farming aspect, of course. And after I've done like the interior yards, of course I started to do the outside landscaping. This is something that I always do before even doing the furnishing, because sometimes if you do the landscaping later, at least because I use the move objects cheat a lot, which basically allows me to place stuff wherever I want and even stack it one over one another. This also sometimes means that some trees are stuck into the walls and are overlapping and growing into the house, which is something that I didn't want to do here, of course. So usually I do the landscaping before I do the furnishing. And here you can see me doing the graveyard of the chapel/church part, of course. We already, through the base game, have some tombstones, which is amazing, because I can remember in old Sims 3 and Sims 2 times that I had to mass murder lots of Sims just to get some tombstones for building. So this is kind of more Sims friendly now that I have some tombstones in build mode already. Thank you so much, Sims team. Lots of Sims life have been, I don't know, saved through this or prevented, let's just say it like this. But yeah, it was kind of funny. All the tombstones though look the same. One is a little bit more crooked, so I kind of changed the color of them a little bit. And also later I will put in some flowers on some of them, like in front of them, as if like somebody is like regularly tending them and like mourning about their ancestors or something like this. In the chapel, of course, like I said, there will be a little wedding arch, so you can do weddings in there, and also there will be a little baptizing kind of. I mean, it's a bird bath, but it's for baptizing. This is something that I figured out. Maybe you want to play something like this that you can baptize your child, because I know that some of you, of course, are into something like this more realistically. But yeah, that would be interesting as well to see, of course. So I have uploaded this as a residential lot, of course, since I wanted to play with my own little cult or order of the lionfish god that I called it on there, and it was kind of interesting, of course, to play with that. But if you want to, you can of course set it to a park or something. I think it has all the requirements to be a park as well. Maybe you need a chess table or something, but that's basically it. Also, there are of course lots of other things to skill. So there are different easels. There are of course some of these bonsai trees that make you skill the gardening skill. Then there are of course some workbenches that you can do. Of course, lots of books. There's also a little library, for example, kitchen, lots of dormitories and single, like for the priest or something, like bigger bedrooms for the high-ranking kind of people of the order living there. But yeah, this is basically a really elaborate build, and it took me so much time, so I'm really sorry that for the very late video, I know I haven't uploaded this speed build for such a long time, but this is just because this takes a lot of time to do. And I'm not a very fast builder though, although some people think that it's kind of fast to build this, what did I say, like 12-hour building and then maybe some more. But yeah, it has been quite a while to build something, and was really, really happy to finally do something like this. I hope that you like it, guys. As I said, the download link is in the video description down below. And now, as always, there will be the video tour, so you have a better look at it and everything. And so yeah, please enjoy the video tour. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.